Welcome to Life Planning 101, brought to you by Kennedy Financial Services of Eastland. Tune in every Monday morning at 8:30 on KATX and KWBY, and again on Saturday morning at 9 on KATX and KWBY as Angela Robinson joins Terry Slavens to share important financial information to help you live life on purpose. Insurance, investments, estate and tax planning, and much more. All covered now on Life Planning 101.
Well, very pleasant good Monday morning, everyone. Welcome into Life Planning 101 right here on KATX, KWBY. Terry Slavens with you, and as always, joined by Angela Kennedy Robinson. Good morning, Angela.
Good morning. Good Monday morning. January it is, and I hope nobody has given up on their resolutions just yet. So we've got a great year ahead of us. And, we were talking earlier this year about, people making life changes and really focusing on life and what you want to have happen, and if this were your last day on earth, and really focusing on the bigger, broader spectrum of goals. And this radio show kind of goes in line with that, because I'm specifically going to be talking to those people that are nearing retirement, thinking about retirement, maybe retiring this year, or will retire in the near future, or maybe they already are retired, and really taking a focus on life rather than retirement. Because we have found that over the years, the people that don't have successful retirement are the ones that focus on just the finances in retirement. They don't focus on anything else. And what do I mean by that? A lot of people get burnout. Would you agree that that's the reason that they retire?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. They fry. They're like, I'm done. I can't do anymore. And so they retire from something. And you've heard me say this terminology. They retire from something rather than retiring to something. And because they retire from something, and because they're so burnt out, there's no purpose driving what's going to happen in their next chapter. And what they're thinking, what's going through their head, and we see this all the time, is budget, budget, budget. If I do this, this, and this, I can retire. If I do this and I spend this for this and this for this, I can retire. If I do this, this, and this, I can retire. It's never, I want to do this, 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 and this is what I'm going to need to do in order to be able to do that in retirement. See the difference?
Absolutely, yes. That's a big difference.
It is a big difference. And, people do it all the time. And where we end up with problems and what we've seen, and I'll be really honest with you, the clients that end up not staying our clients at a life planning firm are the clients that retire from something and just focus on the finances, because they're miserable. No matter what happens, they're always miserable. They have no purpose outside of that. And I hate to say it like that, but that's really the truth of it, is that all they focus on is watching Kramer at the end of the day, or watching MSNBC, because they're so worried about their next dollar and where it's going to come from that it controls their life. Their money controls them. Isn't that horrible?
That is horrible. And with what the Dow has done here in the last few months, I'm sure there's been a lot of miserable people out there.
Yes. We're very blessed. We went through, of course, the huge recession back in 08, 09, and, we had a lot of come to Jesus talks with people about this. And we said, look, we're gonna break the old lease, and we're gonna start the new lease here. And this is what this means: is you're gonna find a life plan, not a retirement plan any longer, because yes, we want to be your conscience, we want to be your guide, but when you let your emotions and your money run you, you're going to destroy your retirement and your future. You're going to do it. There's a reason that the average investor makes a return that is minuscule compared to what the actual S&P 500 does over time. It's because they let their emotions get the best of them. And you can't do that, right? So you find those people that are full of purpose, and they're focusing on the right things in retirement. They're actually focusing on life. Guess what? They may not have even noticed the Dow went down during this time. They might not even care that the Dow went down during this time, because it's just a blip in history. right?
Yes. I tell my mother all the time, I said, just don't look at it. I mean, just leave it alone.
Yes, this is right. And, you look at this last week, we've had an incredible bull market. So, what goes up comes down. What comes down goes up. It's the nature of the beast. It's always been that way. It's called economic cycles, and it's called the stock market. And if you let that rule your retirement, you're going to be miserable. So, what I want to talk about on the show today is I want to share with you, some things to think about is, do I really have a financial plan, or do I really have a life plan? And if I have a financial plan, what do I maybe need to adjust, or what maybe I need to do different so I can turn my financial plan into a life plan and have a successful retirement? We always talk about we want to retire successfully, but we forget to say we want to stay retired successfully. So how do you do that? How do you stay retired successfully? That's right here on Life Planning 101 when we come back.
Segment 2, Life Planning 101 already right here on KTX KWY. Angela has some great information about planning for retirement. Angela?
Yes, and we talked about really, what do you have? Do you have a financial plan, a retirement plan, or do you have a life plan? What is it? And what I mean by that, okay, so I found this statistic. I actually dug this up. This is a 9-year-old statistic, but I'm going to bet you that it's the same, if not worse, just because of the type of society we are as Americans. 51% of retirees stated that if they had the chance to do it over, they would have focused more on life goals and less on a specific nest egg dollar amount in retirement planning. Moreover, 38% of this same group stated that they would have spent more time on how they wanted to live in retirement. So if you're thinking about retirement, the first thing you need to think about is, what does retirement look like for you? Forget the money. Forget the investment account. And I hear it all the time. I'm going to retire when my 401k reaches $1 million. I'm going to retire when my 401k reaches $2 million. Whatever that number is, right? This is my number. We remember that advertisement with Fidelity. It says, "What's your number?"
Right.
And it went around forever, and everybody's got the specific number in mind. But how do you even know? How do you possibly know that number is right for you if you don't have your own retirement figured out? If you haven't sat down and said, what am I retiring to? What am I going to have that's fulfilling in retirement? Because if you're going to sit at home all day, because in reality, if you think about it, every day is a vacation or a retirement, right? You're used to working 5 days a week, and now all of a sudden you have 5 free days a week. So let me ask you a question. Do you typically spend more or less money on the weekend?
More money on the weekend.
More money on the weekend. Well, every day is a weekend day.
So you spend more money.
Yeah. Do you think you're actually going to spend less in retirement than you do now? There's a very good chance that you're not. There's a very good chance that you'll spend more money in retirement. More so, you've got 5 free days. Are those all going to be fun days? I laugh when people say, well, I just want to play golf in retirement. And that's great. If you want to play golf in retirement, that's great. But I'm going to bet you're not going to be playing golf 7 days a week. You're going to need to have something else that's a little bit fulfilling in your life that you're going to want to do, right? And we talked about, I think it was a few months ago on the radio show about retirement readiness and having, different areas, your social, side filled where at work you would have people around you and you lose that social group, and being able to replace that and have your purpose filled, because at work you often have a purpose or have something that you're working towards or something that you're giving back. And how are you going to replace that purpose? You have all these little components that go away in retirement. And so really the first step is building that picture. What does retirement look like to you? And what I would encourage you to do that is actually go back to our very last show of 2018 that we did. And I know, Terry, we don't have that pulled up, but, that show was just about being able to have your purpose in life, right? And building your entire New Year's resolutions around that purpose and and gave you some great tips and tools, and we gave you, resources to be able to go and look things up, be able to, build that purpose out. So if you're nearing retirement and you don't have that, you need to have it. I hate to say that, but if you're just retiring from something, there's a very good chance that if you don't fix that, you're going to be unsuccessful in retirement, because you're going to go crazy, or you're going to end up, and I'll give you an example. We saw this happen. Even if it's not about the money, but we had a guy that, he's so burnt out with his work that he said, I've just got to stop. I can't go any longer. And so he did retire. And about 10 years into retirement, of course, he was bored to tears. So he just decided he was going to up and move and change his entire lifestyle. Well, guess what? The money didn't match the retirement plan. He didn't have it set out. He didn't have his purpose. So, and that's the unfortunate thing. I think that's why a lot of people get scared at retirement, because they see this deadline and say, okay, well, my earning power ends here. And if I don't have any more earning power, am I going to run out of income? They get scared, right? And we build in all kinds of tools around our planning to be able to hedge that. We actually create an income plan specific to every single client that we work with, so that fear can go away, because it should never be a fear. You should never have that as a fear if you plan the right way. Now, if you go into retirement, retiring from something, and you don't have what that's going to look like, and you just say, well, if I maneuver this, and this, and I get my budget just right, then it'll work. It's never going to work. Second side to this coin. So I shared with you a story about this one particular doctor before, but he was a doctor that had come through our workshops, and he had desperately been wanting to retire from his practice for several years. He was stressed out, burned out. He owned his own business, and so if you're a business owner, you understand how stressful that can be. And when you're at your end of the rope, you're at your end of the rope, and you don't want to go any further. Well, he did. He kept going further because he didn't know. He didn't think he could retire, and he came through our workshop that we did through the university at that time. And at the end of it, we had given a free financial plan to everybody that came through as a gift for their tuition that they paid to the school. And so he went through all of that, and, when we went through his financial plan, we told him, you can retire. Well, the next time that we showed up at his office, we walked up and we're asking for him. They said, well, he's sitting right over there. Where is he at? Turned around and didn't see him. He had his sunshades on, his Hawaiian shirt on, and his flip-flops. He was done. He was ready to retire.
He was in retirement mode.
He was in full-fledged retirement mode. The sad thing is, though, a week later he had a stroke. Was the same man again. And not too long after that, he ended up passing away.
You hear that a lot. I mean, a lot of times you hear, and some of the ones that jump out at me, Tom Landry, whenever he didn't retire, he was forced out, but he didn't live long after he was done.
That's right. So, what is retirement really about? Don't wait till you get to the point that you're so burnt out that you have nothing left in you to be able to move forward. Because I ask this, question all the time. I, of course, stole it from my dad. But I ask people when we visit for the first time, I say, okay, today is the first day of the rest of your life. And so you're 66 years old. How long is that going to be? 10 years?
Unknown.
30 years? 40 years? Right? We don't know. So, but, people forget to think that way. They just think about the here and the now. My present pain is controlling me, and I've got to stop that present pain. Well, maybe that's not the answer if you want a successful retirement and you want to stay successfully retired. More when we come back right here on Life Planning 101.
Life Planning 101 continues here on this beautiful Monday morning. We're talking retirement planning with Angela Kennedy Robinson. Angela?
Yes. Retirement planning, wouldn't you say, the right way, rather than the way most people do it, unfortunately. The thing is, we all think retirement has to do with the great big dollar bill. And that's very true. After all, isn't that what you've done your whole life? You waited, you saved, you scrimped, you did everything you can to have a lump sum that you could live off of the rest of your life and just enjoy it out, right?
Yes.
The thing is, how long is that going to be? Like we talked about before the break, right? If this is the first day of the rest of your life, is it 40 years? For some people it is. 30? 20? That's a long time. So, what does that mean? And we talked about the fact of, having something to retire to and building your retirement plan on what that is about, rather than just forcing yourself to retire and say, if I can do this, 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 and this, I think I can retire. And then being miserable because you're being forced to do this, 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 and this, or you're going to blow up your planning because you don't do this, this, and this, and this because you can't. And we see it happen all the time, and people are miserable. They're absolutely miserable in retirement. So, we want to make it about life. That's why we call ourselves a life planning firm. We want to make sure that people are living life on purpose. They're doing what they really want to do with their life. And they figure out what those life goals are, not just dedicating dollars for that big, massive goal that's out there. And we don't want to make light of that. Obviously, we're in the business of retirement planning. We help people retire. We help people create an income plan. We help people protect their retirement. This is a huge part of retirement, right? But the big thing is that it's all got to start with you. The part that we can't do is figure out what it means for you to live life on purpose. And I cannot stress that enough. But it's so important. The second part that we cannot do is budget. You got to build that budget around what it means to live life on purpose. Not a budget around what you're doing now. A budget that you can live by during retirement. Business owners, I'm going to pick on you for just a minute, but you're the world's worst. And the only reason I say that is because you've lived your whole life. When it's feast, you feast. When it's famine, you famine. You're not you'll say, and I'll deal with that in a good year. I'll be able to spend that in a good year. You're not accustomed to being able to live off of a budget. Well, retirement for a business owner is going from 1099 income to W-2 income. All of a sudden, you need to start acting like you're getting a weekly paycheck and that's all you're ever going to get. And you got to find a way to balance around that. So, people get real scared about that. I'll tell you why they get scared. They get scared for two reasons. They get scared because they don't have a plan for their retirement. And I'm not talking about just a financial plan. They don't have a life plan for their retirement. They don't know what they want to accomplish in retirement or what they want to do. They haven't sat down and communicated it with their wife. I can't tell you how many times we've seen that happen, right? Where we just have this idea in our head and we never discuss it with our wife until the grand old day comes that, hey, we need to go talk to our advisor and see if we can retire. Well, it's not going to work. You need to spend just as much time as you do on your retirement plan as planning that cruise to Alaska or planning that, trip to Australia. The biggest trip you're ever going to take, you're going to spend weeks, months maybe planning. You need to spend that same amount of time focusing on what retirement means to you. What does it mean to you to live life on purpose and building that budget around it? Yeah, we can do everything else. We can make sure that you don't misstep in any direction from there. But if we don't have anything to go on, it's going to be a failure from the start. And I hope I've scared you enough that you're motivated. That's the goal, right?
Motivation,
yes. It's the new year. And if you're thinking retirement this year, next year, you're already retired, whatever it is, make sure that you have a life plan, not just a financial plan, not just a retirement plan, a life plan so that you can live life on purpose. You can focus on the things that are most important to you and let your money and your resources work for you so that you're not a slave to that for the remainder of your life, whether that's a decade, 2 decades, whatever it is. That's all I've got. Pretty simple, but it needs to be said. It's not said. It's taboo. It's something we don't talk about in our industry. I think the reason we don't is a lot of professionals just want the business. They're hungry for the business. They got to feed their families too.
right?
The way we look at it is if someone can't do the life planning, we can't do a good job for them. We can't figure it out. for them. And it's not going to be a successful relationship from the start. So with that, wish everyone a very happy New Year, because it is still January, and we don't need to forget how blessed we are here in the United States in 2019 and everything going on with our government. We need to pray for them. And I pray for each one of you as our listeners and all of our clients each and every day that you can focus on your life goals and live life on purpose and do what God intended you to do right here on this earth. So God bless you. Have a great week. My name is Angela Robinson with Kennedy Financial Services.
Thank you for joining us for Life Planning 101, brought to you by Kennedy Financial Services of Eastland. Tune in every Monday morning at 8:30 on KATX and KWBY, and again on Saturday morning at 9 o'clock on KATX and KWBY for more Life Planning 101.
Advisory services offered through Smart Money Group, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Securities offered through Colton & Associates, Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC. Kennedy Financial Services, Incorporated is an independent of Colton & Associates, Incorporated and Smart Money Group, LLC.